Good morning, WTU community. I hope you're all keeping well, keeping your spirits high and not letting life get you down. It's important you don't do that. I'm not able to, pre-book my live feeds. Unfortunately, I have to do them as and when I can get some time. As it happens, my little one's been to spend the night with her mum, so I've had a very brief window of campaign activity. I've managed to catch up with my homework from Robert, as it were. He needed me to analyse the Dame Carol's review that talked about 25,000 people inside receiving treatment for cannabis. Thankfully, Guy Coxall had already done a lot of research around this area, so that really facilitated and made my weekend much easier, which allowed me to read the 50-page document that he has now compiled that is kind of an amalgamation of a timeline that WTU has found, the paper that WTU put together, and the findings of SeedourFuture. Still waiting, I think, for information from Hemphound that we need to slot in too. We've basically, I think, with so many different minds. When I say we, I don't mean like me and Guy. I mean like we, the communities, because so many people have shared information to me, to Guy, to every other person. I know Kevin put loads in. Everyone that's received information, sent information to us, it's phenomenal because it's like a hive mind of activity. Yeah, real good. Teamwork makes the dream work, and it feels like community effort. So I'm now waiting for, if you remember last feed, I said that Robert was going to be on the phone with me. We were going to analyse the Secretary of State's response, and then from there instruct the barrister to make a declaration of incompatibility. Robert, we did that analysis over the phone. He is dictating to his secretary to write that up, to send over to myself to review and approve. And then he also sent me part that he couldn't do himself, part of delving into the research. So I've done my part. In fact, I found some wonderful quotes from inside the government's research. The vast majority of cannabis consumers won't ever require medical treatment. So why the hell are you prosecuting us? So yeah, lots of interesting information found in there. That's all being pieced together slowly. So we've now got various things going on. We've still got the WTU move to make a declaration of incompatibility, and now we're having this a coalition of campaign groups coming together to try and make a more united attack, spreading knowledge and resources across the communities. So far, it's coming together. We have the Outlaw community, SeedourFuture, We the Undersigned, Hemphound. They're kind of the four groups at the moment, if you will, that are uniting here. Obviously, more are welcome to join us because this isn't an exclusive thing. This law affects all of us. So any other groups who feel that they are affected by this law and want to be supporting, please, let's all unite on this under common cause. No more division. Let's have some unity. So, there's still more work to be done on that. I've spent this morning reading through the document that Guy's compiled. It's phenomenal. It goes back to the very beginnings, to the root of cannabis prohibition, which is important because without knowing the history, it's difficult to understand the present. And it's phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. An absolute piece of mastery. Our belief is once all this information would be put before a panel of judges and members of the public, they would be hard pushed not to agree that cannabis should not be within the Misuse of Drugs Act, and that has been incorrectly legislated for a century. And it's time that the law reflected things accurately and factually. So it's a very interesting piece. It's not to say the WTU piece itself that we've started ourselves isn't going to continue, but at the minute it's looking like pooling resources might be the best way forward and a way to make steps quicker as well. Still going to go with the declaration of incompatibility and still with our human rights aspect, as well as everything else. It's quite phenomenal to be a part of all this. What I'd like to ask you all do is to join in and help, really, spread the roots of the WTU community and build branches of support between other communities so that we can all come together in common cause. I'm also going to do a bit of a shameless plug but there's now 3 books. Alan Buffrey, who is a veteran campaigner, human rights campaigner and camp activist, he's also a publisher and a writer, and he's promised to pledge all the proceeds from all of his writings to the WTU campaign, which is now going to become, well, we haven't got the title for it yet, the coalition. I'm calling it the UK Cannabis Coalition for Justice. So something like that. But anyway, there's 3 books now. We have Inside My Hat and Other Heads, which was the first book that was compiled. £10 a penny from Amazon. They're all £10 a penny, I think, so you don't have to pay post and packaging. And I think it's £3.33 or something from every book goes into the campaign fund. So, there's a potential here for you to purchase a piece of Prohibition history and also be supporting the campaign. So, I would ask you to do something like this. Then the second book, Words of Weed and Wisdom, which is a collection of thoughts, poems and musings and sketches, again, from activists and campaigners in the country and around the world. I'm actually going to read one out of this right now. I did write it myself. I wrote it on a comment and post that we're having with Alan. Excuse me a second. Let me just get past that spasm and I'll start reading for you. Apathy. Apathy seems to be our most powerful foe. And, as ever, Alan Buffrey, you're in the know. Imagine if all who pledged support became active campaigners instead of passive supporter. Then maybe the government wouldn't beat us all like we're lambs to the slaughter. 50 years fighting for truth, justice and freedom, to have the right to sow cannabis seeds in our own private kingdom. What does it take to activate, motivate and engage? It takes loss of life, liberty and loved ones to become enraged, instead of ruled by government-induced fright. So before I get back in today's fight, I ease my pain by having hot Epsom soak and muse myself. There's nought as funny as folk. Apathy is our most deadliest enemy. Not the government, not the police, nothing. Apathy. And by that I mean fear-induced apathy, where people are that scared of the law and its consequences to take action. Lots of us have been there. Used to be there myself until I had 4 near-death experiences from pharmaceutical drugs, which puts life into a different perspective. And not everyone's had that. And that's why I mention it takes the loss of life, liberty or loved ones to become enraged, to stand up in defiance against this unjust law. So I'll ask you, don't wait for that to happen. Stand up in defiance of it now. Because the more of us that stand together, the quicker we're going to get this through. And then Alan Buffrey's also compiled this here. It's Legalise and Utilise, a commemorative edition for 2021. And this actually goes back to the political party of the Legalised Cannabis Alliance and the campaign they had, crikey, what year was it? 2005. Forgive me, I should know my history better than that. And it's a phenomenal piece of it's historical memorabilia. You won't find, Howard Marks straight on the first page. I remember reading about Howard Marks when I was a boy. I never thought I'd be like an activist and campaigner, not equating myself to Howard Marks. Don't get me wrong, I haven't imported any fucking huge amounts of weed for a start. But, everyone's got their role to play. And that's what I'm saying to you. You all have your role to play, no matter how big or small. And that role can be simply talking about it in the street, telling people about what we're doing. That to me is one of the purest forms of activism, actually, is in your daily circles, that your routines, you tell people your identity, tell them your truth, tell them the government's lies, stand by your truth, and then see how your people in your circles judge you, and whether they stand by you or walk away from you. And you will lose some, but you'll gain more. And those that come to you are the ones that stand by the truth, on the right side of history. So, as I said in the interview with Channel 4, I think it was, no more shit, no more fear, no more shame, and no more stigma. It's how people who prefer people of the same sex, how did they get their rights? Standing tall and standing proud. Women's rights, how did they do it? Standing tall. How did the coloured people do it? Standing together, standing tall. Until we do it, they're going to stamp on us forever. So, on that note, please stand together, join the community, share. Any ideas for fundraising, bring them forward. There's been lots of things about making new groups. Personally, I feel not another group. WTU, all these people saying let's make a new group, they remind me of me, in fact, in 2014 when I came out, I'm going to start a campaign for cannabis, not knowing it had been going on for 40 years, but the media is that tightly controlled, they don't tell us any of it, so we have no idea until we get that enraged and then we break out. So that's why we have to talk about it without fear, because then more people know about it. So, as you can see, I'm excited. It feels like, we're getting there. Can we get Alan books on Kindle? Alan Buffrey, are your books available on Kindle? What I'll ask Alan to do, if possible, or I'll try and do myself, is to put links into this feed as well to Amazon to find these books. I'm not actually that organised in that aspect, but I'm not sure if it's on Kindle or not. I'm going to see if I've got any questions. I normally just rant and rave and ramble and then disappear. No one's actually asking anything. I can bring people on camera. Does anybody want to come on camera for a chat? If anybody wants to come on camera for a chat, let's say now, and I might be able to bring you on. It'd be nice to have other people's faces on this, actually. I was wondering if people would be interested in like having live feed discussions with myself. It could be of their personal circumstances. It could be anything really. It could be if you'd like to get onto our YouTube channel and have your story told on there, then feel free. Please let us know. We'd be quite happy to have video testimonials of people. It doesn't have to be medical, by the way, because WTU is not about medical. It can just be about the effects of the law upon your life. Someone says not this early. Damn hair's a state. Yeah, I can relate to that quite often. So I've just got to wait for Rob now to send me from his secretary. Once he's sent that to me, we'll put it into the bits I've done. We've got to finish this document that Guy's doing. Keep collaborating with Outlaw and the rest of the tribes that are joining us, and try and go forward as fast and as far as we can. I would like it. I'm hoping that in the next 4 weeks we'll have issued our declaration of incompatibility. That's what I'm hoping and praying for. In fact, April 420 would be a very good day for that, wouldn't it? So I'm going to try and arrange that date with Rob. I'm going to try and arrange that date with Rob so that we can try and have the declaration issued for that date, actually. Someone's mentioned the Church of Canna. I will give a shout out to the Church of Canna. Yeah, I'm a cantheist, as it happens. I believe the universe and God gave us cannabis, and no politician has got the right to take it from us. I totally believe in a religion based around cannabis, and I think it's a great idea. Build the church and the people will come. Whether that's a digital church or a physical church, it doesn't matter. Start with a digital church first, and once you have your congregation at a digital church, perhaps then try and make local churches in a real fashion. Yeah, make that church, brother. Count me in. I want to come. In fact, the fact is, right, because I was racially, mentally and sexually abused as a child, I hated God. I completely disbelieved in God. I would argue, while sea fishing for the entire tide in and out, against the very existence of God. And I would argue that religion was an abomination upon humanity, with religious people that believed the contrary to myself. And I believed that God couldn't exist because of the suffering that had been inflicted upon me as a child by other children and adults that should have loved and cared and respected me. And it was only when I got to about 21 years old, I think. I didn't think I would tell him my Finding God story this morning, shit. It was only when I got to about 21 years old, I think it was. In fact, I was with my to-be wife, that now isn't my wife, and she'd left then, like she left now, funnily enough. Sorry, I'm not meaning to speak bad of her, but this is the actual context. So, you know, I was broken-hearted is what I'm saying. So because I was broken-hearted and lost the person who I believed was going to be the mother of my children, because I'd been seen a vision of me taking a photo of this woman with two of my children, a boy with curly hair and a girl with long straight hair, lo and behold, you know, I prayed and prayed and prayed, and Lou came back. And we had 20 great years together, 2 wonderful children, 3 now, a boy with curly hair and a girl with long straight hair. You know, the vision came true. It wasn't meant to be forever, but such is life, and we all carry on. But in that time of loss and grieving, before she came back, I went on this mega self-destruction bender. I never used to drink alcohol before this point, but I got into alcohol. I'd go out and have like 10 pints, come home and take 10 ecstasy tablets and smoke bongs and buckets the whole time. I was trying to kill myself. There's no two ways about it. I was literally trying to drink and kill myself with drugs because I didn't want to live without Lou. Simple as that. There's no shame in it. That's the way it was. And whilst I was in one of my moments of despair, I don't think I'd had beers and ecstasy this particular night. I was on bongs. I was smoking bucket bongs, bang, 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 non-stop bucket bongs. I was blasting my brain cells to pieces in a bid to try and kill myself. And then I got like into this, like I was on my bed, starfished, and felt I just gave up. I gave up to everything, and I I reflected deeply upon the paths I'd taken in life. I'd been very promiscuous as a youth, probably a result of my sexual abuse, as it happens, now that I analyse and look backwards. And I kind of reflected upon myself as an individual, myself as a partner for the woman that just left me, and myself as a prospective father in the future, and all these things. And I felt myself, it's like my bed disappeared, and I sank to cold, dark depths of nothingness. It was horrible. It was empty. It was abject, cold and nothingness, and no light, no nothing. And I won't say voices in my head because it wasn't that, but I had thoughts that was like, if you carry on your path, that's where you're going, that's where you're going to end up, like in this dark, cold and lonely place. Whereas if you kind of turn your back on your attitude, your ways of life, and take a different path to where you'd been, where I had been, there was a different way, and at that point I levitated from this dark place. It was like I'd sunken into the bed through the shape of myself, and lifted and came back onto my bed, but then elevated above it into light and warmth and love like I'd never felt before in my entire life. Now, I didn't have love in my childhood. I'd only known love in Lou, actually, which is why I was so heartbroken to lose her. But I felt love, love in God, love in the universe. I felt love like and embraced. I was loved and hugged. And it was like, just follow the path of light, and you've got this love and this in you all the time. You don't need, you are the light, you are the love, you are the happiness type thing. And that was it, I followed the path of light thereafter. No more wicked deeds from this soul. 10 Commandments became very important to me, and treating others the way. I still don't believe in religion, not especially. I think it's about controlling people, that is. But I do believe in the greater force of good, God, the power of the universe. And my prayers were answered, I prayed for Lou to come back and for us to have the family that I believe we were having. And we had it, I still believe in God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. So there you go. I didn't anticipate sharing that this morning. It felt like the right time because someone said my thoughts about the Church of Canna. If it wasn't for high THC cannabis, I would not believe in God. Simple as that. God would not reside in my soul if it was not for cannabis, for me personally. It helped me open my mind, it helped me open my soul, and just listen and feel and accept. And that's why I think they don't want us to have it as well. But that's an entirely different school of thought for a different day. So yeah, I'm down with the church. I think part of the religious ceremony should be, like they have the bread of Christ and wine, blood of Christ, there should be incense burners and braziers within the church that are just burning cannabis, same as Moses did inside his tent. It wasn't that he was smoking cannabis in joints in the way that we do nowadays. There were just giant braziers with coals and piles and piles and piles of nice cannabis flowers on top of them, and they would burn like incense into, well, Moses used a tent as it happens. Thank you, Chris Bennett, for that information. And, by my word, I'd have a church where there was that incense burning, cannabis incense burning, and that would take people to the elevated state of consciousness where they could potentially open up and commune with God and the powers of the universe. Of course, to conclude with, as physics taught us, every positive must have a negative. So if we have God, forgive me if you don't believe in God, we'll just say good. Then we've got bad, the evil. So you've got good and light, dark and light, man. It's all yin and yang. It's all a battle of light between galaxies and black holes. And I'm saving that one for a different day. In fact, Charlie, when you get your church going, I would more than happily come and share with you the vision that I was given from high THC cannabis made by a very accomplished grower that showed me the understanding of the universe. The battle between galaxies and black holes. And the question is, do you want to be a galaxy or do you want to be a black hole? So yes, please invite me to your church. I'd love to come and speak when you've got it there. Whether it's real or digital, doesn't matter. Right, my daughter's on the way home. I'm going now, folks. Lots of love. Once these documents are completed and finalised, they will be made public like everything else that WTU and SeedourFuture have been doing. It's all been made public resource, so if any of you find yourself in court, you can submit it as evidence and use it in your defence to challenge the law. And you can count on us being by your side if that happens. Call us in as witnesses, as the authors of the document. We will be there. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I should be arrested. I shouldn't be sat here, by the way. Yeah? Just so all the people living in fear know that fear might not be founded. Because technically speaking, the day I threw out my fear and told the police and the government and everyone else directly what I'm doing, I should have been arrested the following day. 7 years ago now that was, and I'm still sat here, I suppose, waiting to be arrested, so I can persuade a jury of my peers of the facts of evidence rather than the political propaganda. So I would encourage everyone, shake off the fear, be the change you want to see, and challenge it in court when you get there. Right. Love, light and peace, people. Keep your spirits high, keep your endocannabinoid system topped up, and smile, because it produces anandamide. Right, I got to go. I would like to chat, but I got to go.